Business, a podcast for all those subjects we've been trained to avoid. Here's your respectfully irreverent host, Keith Shelton.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to all you nobodies. I'm Keith Shelton. I'm the ramrod around here. In the immortal words of Drago on McClintock, my favorite Western. I normally have my co-pilot here. Where's my buddy? There he is. Hey, son.
I'm here. I am still recovering from the 3-year-old soccer practice I just got done coaching. I don't know the first thing about soccer, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, and what y'all don't understand is JT's mom and I have already been through the 3-year-old soccer practice, and guess who the star was from our family? JT himself. So we've been there, and it's so fun watching him do the same thing with his little boy.
You should have seen the little wind up one of them boys had. He'd take about 6 steps, kick it every time he got ready to kick it.
Oh, it's so much fun at that age. So much fun. Well, folks, let me tell you, we promised y'all we had a great guest tonight. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so entertaining. Going to be a lot of nostalgia. But let me tell you, faith, family, and football. The story is should inspire you, touch your heart, make you laugh, give you tender moments as well. Our special guest tonight is none other the man, the myth, the legend, William Day. Hey, William.
Hey, Key, how you doing, brother?
Man, so glad to have you with us tonight. I mean, you and I have known each other since high school, so I know a lot of your stories, but I liked what you posted on your Facebook thing about, all your friends get to hear your stories for the 101st time.
At least.
So, that was awful good. JT, were you going to say something?
I had one question. It saw your tag under your name, SEC's greatest speed bump. I was just curious what that was.
Well, if you look at a lot of the things that happened in my career, when I got to the SEC, Ole Miss, we weren't that really good. What were we, 5-6, and then thank goodness that Mississippi State had gone on probation for 2 years, so we ended up 6-5. But every time our defense, somebody'd break loose, and I was like, get run over, and so finally,
you were the speed bump.
I'm the son of an SEC football legend that was back-to-back all-SEC quarterback, won 2 SEC championships, the none other Eagle Day. And somebody say, well, what is your claim to fame during your playing career? I said, I was the one that they would break through the hole and you'd see them run over and be like, boom, boom. And they keep going. I'm that SEC's greatest speed bump. And Stu keeps saying I'm the roadblock. I keep having to correct him. I said, Stu, there wasn't very many I stopped except a couple.
Oh, goodness. Well, look, here's how we're going to start off tonight, William.
Okay.
JT, let's show him in his lab coat.
Dr. Day?
Dr. Day, Farm D. For those of you who don't know, but will soon know, William is one of the smartest men I've ever known. Entrepreneur, businessman, husband, father, grandfather, head of an award-winning tailgate activity. I mean, the man is just unbelievable. Let's see where he started.
Oh no.
Where's the pyramid photo there, Jay? There we go. Number 12 up there.
I started on top, Keith. Hey, Keith, I started on top.
How about that?
That's great.
How about that?
Oh, I remember that picture.
Now, look, y'all were in high school, but it's amazing to me how everybody looks like they're 14 years old. Oh, my gosh, those were the days, wasn't it?
That would have been, 72? 70, that's been 72.
72 or 73, yeah.
So I was 15 years old then.
Well, William, here's what we want you to do.
Okay.
Take it from where you started and explain to everybody how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just say this. Where I got to where I am today is really from absolute hard work. That's the one thing that was instilled in me from the day I started football. Football was my vehicle. Football, and then kind of being like a little nerd and wanting to study all the time. But hard work was it. And then, man, there was a lot of praying. Prayer saved me in a lot of situations because I really had some ups and downs, and we'll go through that as we move on. But that was big. And then finally, the biggest thing was God placing the just, there's nothing coincidental by God, but by me meeting Leslie by chance, where we're leaving to go to the game in Jackson, Mississippi, and the LSU band and Golden Girls are coming in, for me to meet her and to really finally get a direction in my life of where I really wanted to go with this woman that's the strongest woman I've ever known. Really changed my life and got it on something other than football, because up until that point, my senior year at Ole Miss, everything had been about football. Had to be a good football player because, like I say, growing up, everything was if you could be half as good as your dad, if you could, I'm not knocking that. Believe me, it was a challenge, but it was probably one of the blessings in the world is to have a father like that and to try to live up to that. What he had accomplished pushed me harder and harder and harder, and I wouldn't give up. And then to meet Leslie and have her help me get along with her strength. That's how it works. And getting there was strictly 100%. You better have some faith. You better have a lot of faith in God because you're going to get challenged.
Oh yeah. Well, look, let's talk about your dad, just so everybody know who he is. Legendary, two-time All-SEC quarterback at Ole Miss, Eagle Day from Columbia, Mississippi. Most valuable player of the 55 or 56 Cotton Bowl.
56.
Which one was it?
56.
56 Cotton Bowl, most valuable player. One of the highly ranked QBs in several categories at Ole Miss. Like I said, two-time SEC, all SEC. I mean, man, you had shoes to fill, and that was before anybody even knew who you were. Did you know who you were?
Not really. It was really peculiar, just the fact that your dad was famous. We spent some time in Canada. I don't know if you knew that, but I'd go back and forth in elementary school. Dad played for the Washington Redskins, and he went up in Canada and had a 10-year football career in the pros. Yeah, that's him right there. It's really cool. I got that picture right behind me.
He's got an entire Wikipedia page about him, apparently.
Yeah, but the one thing about Dad that most people don't know is he's the winningest quarterback percentage-wise in Ole Miss history, and he's the only quarterback to win back-to-back SEC championships.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that no other quarterback in Ole Miss history accomplished. And then he's in the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame, made that. And then I think Eli has since joined him there. But Eagle was, it was a good relationship from the sports standpoint. And he made a statement to me, and I got to tell this story that changed my life from football. We'll get some football stories out of the way, which is ironic with you and I. We were playing a Gray Y football game, which is the YMCA league. And we were playing against, believe it or not, Stan and Stu Clyburn, who you and I great friends with today. We're great friends back then, and two athletes that ended up playing Major League Baseball. So they had great athletic careers. But we're playing the last game of the season, and it was the last play of the game, and Stan ran a quarterback sneak, and I was so mad because we were going to lose the game that I ran as hard as I could and hit Stan. and Stan too. Stan was stocky back then too. And,
goodness.
And it hurt so bad. It's like, I don't know if it was concussion or whatever, but I took off running and went and hid behind our car and started crying like a baby because I was just so embarrassed because I was hurting, and I was really hurting bad. And I can remember my dad coming back there, and it changed my whole football career. As he looked at me, he said, "William, He said, that's the hardest hit you'll ever have. From now on, it will get easier. And the one thing that, if you ask any teammate I've ever played with in high school and in college, nobody can ever say I wouldn't hit anything. I've taken more hits. I've hit more people. I've knocked people down. I was never scared to hit anything. And I think a lot of it was because I learned at that first play that hurt me ever that it's going to get better. And so it really changed my life. And he had that kind of motivation. And then in the 9th grade, it was probably a turning point. He said, okay, here's your deal. Do you want to play college football? And I said, yes, sir, I want to play college football. He said, well, you better be truthful, because from this point, our relationship's going to change. And he said, at that point, I'm going to push you so that you will have that opportunity. Well, I was working as hard as I could. And you can remember our friend Mike Dickerson. You can ask Mike Dickerson. We worked in 12 noon every day during the summer trying to get in shape to make it. But my timing was never right. And Eagle just kept saying, keep working and your day will come. And eventually my day came.
Oh, man.
Hence the title, SEC's greatest speed bump. Absolutely,
man. You don't believe it. I'll show you. I'll show you the scars.
Oh, well, look, I've told you my exposure to your dad. I played basketball. You played football. But somehow or another, your dad, when he would come up to the school, I don't know what y'all were doing, but he would come sit in the gym, and he would always sit by himself. He would sit on the other side of the court, where we all came up, where our side came out of the dressing room,
right.
And Coach Brock was over there, and that's where everything was centered around, was the scorer's table in that big coliseum we got to play in. Well, your dad was always come in and sit over in the reserve seat section, and he was almost always by himself, and he was so quiet. He was just so quiet and reserved, and every now and then we'd be, the action would not be going on. We'd be shooting free throws, or we'd be shooting from the field, shooting from the court. And he would just get up and walk out there on the court. Coach Brock never introduced him to anybody, never said anything about him. Eagle just had I guess everybody just had so much respect for him. Nobody questions him, why are you coming out on the court? But let me tell you what he would always, if he said anything to us as players, now we're talking about basketball, we're in that big coliseum, he would get as close as he could, and he would speak so softly. And it was always, always words of encouragement. Do you remember me telling you that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was Eagle Day. He was never bring attention to himself, never anything about, hey, I'm a heck of a ball player from country town, Mississippi. Nothing like that. Very, very humble, very nondescript to see him. And then, when we'd go back and say, now that was Eagle Day, right? Somebody, man, yeah, he played for Ole Miss. And then, we're going like, wow, this guy
fangirling over there.
Yeah, it's like this guy thinks enough of us to come watch us practice basketball and speak to us, and
he respected Coach Brock, number one. Number two, he was a hell of a basketball player in high school. He loved his basketball.
See, I never.
But
I didn't play. But baseball.
I will tell you, yeah, he played baseball, basketball, everything. Just kind of pretty much. You remember, I played a track and everything else. But let me tell you something. Eagle Day was different when it was competition time. He was different. I mean, he had his cockiness, and he would always tell me, he said, I own the field. And then the greatest thing we used to play First Baptist Church softball, and there were some of the greatest athletes you've ever seen on that team. And he would come out, he'd just come on up, he'd say, because they usually played on Saturdays, and he'd start singing, sha-la-la boom die, my name is Eagle Day. I love to run and play on every Saturday.
I love it.
He would just start singing stuff like that. He could talk, and he was the one, he would play first base, and he would catch the ball. Instead of keeping his foot on the bag, he'd love to swipe the bag. So he'd tell them, watch this, I'm going to do some class. I'm going to swipe the bag so you make sure you call it right. So, I mean, yeah, when he got into competition, it changed.
Oh,
and I tell the stories. What made me tough is we would play basketball, and he would never let me have it on the driveway. I had to put it on a tree. So he'd end up putting the goal on a tree. And I'd go in for a layup. He'd drive me into that tree, and I hit the tree. Like, you're not driving the ball in on me. So, I mean, when it got to competition, man, it was a whole different story, and it was fun. It made me competitive.
I've had a couple of bloody nose from the man sitting over across the room there, myself in basketball when he was coaching me. So I know the feeling. I know the feeling with him.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Well, look, let's talk about this. Okay, hard work. You were putting in the work.
Yep.
But William, you've told me about how you doubted yourself. You were wondering, am I really up for this? And where am I headed? And true enough, you and I have talked about this years later. We didn't talk about it at the time, but there were a lot of expectations on you, and you had a lot of self-doubts and insecurities. Take us from that picture of the pyramid where you look like you're having a really good time with your teammates there. How did we move forward? How did we move forward from there?
Well, let me go back. The season before that pyramid picture would be in my 9th grade year in junior high at Forest Hill. We ended up we had won. We were undefeated going into the last game against Pearl, and if we won that, we were the Little Dixie junior high champions. And so we're getting ready, and I've already gone quarterback through the first 6 games. I think we played 7 games back then, and we're undefeated. We get ready for the championship game against Pearl, and the coach benches me and puts the starting quarterback in, another one. And I'm not going to mention names, but he ended up in practice the day before that game, hurt his knee. It ended up being an ACL tear, and I had to go back in, and we won the game on a lateral pass, an intentional lateral behind the line of scrimmage to Tommy Butler, who threw a fit because I couldn't get the ball to him. When everybody stopped, he took off and scored. We won 7-0. So that's when my confidence really started saying, why can I take us to this point, be the starting quarterback, and then get benched for the championship game? And so that's where I started losing confidence. And then, it's to the point where you get into high school and look, I love my years at Forest Hill. I loved everybody else, but there was always some animosity between my dad and the coaches. Coach Templeton, they were teammates, and I think my dad picked on him as a freshman, but there was always some animosity there. And the coaches were trying to change any way I threw the ball, football. They're trying to change the way I drop back pass, which we didn't throw much, but and it was always kind of an animosity. Mm-hmm. And so that really started hurting my confidence. But I've always had defense. I always played defense. I never missed a game not starting in defense all the way through. And so I always had defense to rely on, but I've always, because of the pressure and Eagles son and all that, wanted to be the quarterback. Mm-hmm. So then we get to, it was my junior year at Forest Hill. And I thought Stan was great quarterback, great athlete. And I felt like, we were pretty close, and it didn't work out. But then Stan got hurt. Well, he got hurt against Forest. I came in, and we ended up beating Forest. We had the lead, and that was a great game because Stewart and I had intercepted the great Dave Marler. I don't know if you remember that name. He played Mississippi State.
Oh, yeah.
We intercepted him 5 times. And you can look that up. And so then we get to the Clinton game, and we're down on the 1-yard line with seconds to go, and Stan gets hurt. His knee gets blown out. And I got to go in on the 1-yard line. We hike the ball, it fumbles, and it's like, everybody was jumping on me, saying I cost the game and all of this. And I'm thinking to myself, this just isn't right. And so that really took me to the downward turn. And then 30 years later, I'm with Stan and Stu at their house and at Stu's house in Florida. We watched the video, and the ball never hit my hands. It hit me in the shin. So for 30 years of guilt, feeling bad and losing confidence, it was like, wow, I never got the ball. But again, my confidence started coming back, and I don't want to get too far into this yet, but anybody that's read anything about me, that knows anything about me, is a coach called Jack Carlisle. I'll start crying on this one. But Coach Carlisle took me after I'd turned him down my junior year to go to Jackson Prep. Coach Carlisle said, "Come on, son, you're going to be my quarterback." And there was only one condition to that he has me. Eagle had to stand back, and he was going to coach me the way he wanted to coach me. And the first day I showed up at his office to meet him, to actually accept the role as going to Jackson Prep, he said, "Shut the door." He said, "Son, there's one thing I'm going to do. I'm never going to yell at you in front of the team. This is going to be your team. I don't want you to worry about starting. I don't want you to worry about anything. You will be the quarterback that you can be." Well, we won the state championship. But there's a caveat to that. And I always said, because we talked just about every Friday, for years and years, and especially during football season, we'd do chalk talk together up until he died two and a half years ago. But there was one game, and we were playing Riverside Academy, and we weren't moving the ball. And I guess we were down. It's nothing first quarter. He took me out of the game and benched me. He put the quarterback in behind me. And on the next play, the quarterback threw an interception. And Coach Carlisle looks at me and said, "Get back in there." I said, "I guess so." And I went back, and the next play, he said, "You hand it off to 34 power, and don't you do anything but hand it off to Jim Merle." And so I called 34 power. Jim Merle hit the hole. I said, "Nope." I kept the ball, ran 75 yards for a touchdown. We ended up beating them, ended up winning state championship. But that's when my confidence started changing. That's when it started changing. And I can keep telling stories. Ole Miss was, I guess y'all know, and cut me off if you want to go to another subject, but the hardest thing was I had made all-state in 2 positions at prep my senior year. I got 0 recruiting. The only person that offered me a scholarship was Billy Brewer at Southeast Louisiana. Ole Miss never recruited me. Ole Miss never talked to me. Bob Tyler came up to me after signing day and said, "If you show up, I think they call it a gray shirt now. You walk on, we'll give you a scholarship." And Coach Carlisle was going to Ole Miss, and I'll never forget. I told Bob Tyler on a Sunday, and how Coach Carlisle found out. I went and talked to Bob Tyler, grabbed me, threw me in a closet, and said, "William, I'll be damned if Eagle Day's son's going to go to Mississippi State. I'm going to be the JV coach, and I want you to come with me, walk on at Ole Miss, and where else would you have a better shot at quarterback?" So I walked on at Ole Miss, and first day of practice, he says, "Okay, quarterback's position, get to your positions." I go over to the quarterback huddle. He says, "Who are you?" I said, "William Day." Like he doesn't know. He says, "No, you get your butt on defense. You're not playing quarterback here. Get on defense." But Coach Carlisle knew that's the only way I could make that team, because Bobby Garner, Tim Ellis, those guys, there is no way I was going to be a quarterback at Ole Miss. And he changed my life. And he's the one that fought for me. And that man is, that's the reason. If it hadn't been for that moment, him getting involved, then I wouldn't be at Ole Miss. Things wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have married Leslie. I wouldn't have a beautiful daughter. I wouldn't have the beautiful grandkids. I wouldn't even be in pharmacy, because Leslie's family was all about pharmacy. So it just amazes me how someone like Coach Carlisle would take a chance on a kid like me from Forest Hill that had never, I took maybe 10 snaps in high school at Forest Hill from a quarterback standpoint.
Well, William, one of my sayings is, God's not on his throne, and he didn't drop a pencil and it rolled around behind his throne. And when he reaches back and picks it up and comes back around, he says, "Now, how'd that happen?"
Yeah.
That's not the God we worship.
No.
So I'm like you, man.
So,
leave it up to him and go ahead.
God's great, but let me tell you that where God is just amazing to me. And this is the point to where I was the lowest in my life. I reported to Ole Miss, walking on, have no scholarship, and we show up for freshman practice. Now, at this point, that summer, I really got involved in my faith. I was reading a Bible. I was going to a First Presbyterian Church Bible studies, and from some of the people I knew at prep, and I was really learning my faith, and I started researching my Bible from watching. You remember the movie came out, Jesus Christ Superstar, and I'm a scientist brain even back then, and I said I'm gonna find out who this Christ is. I started reading, and my Bible had those little tabs. I mean, it had more notes in my Bible, but I wanted to find out who this Christ was. And so that summer before I went to Ole Miss to walk on, I was just deep in my faith, and I showed up at Ole Miss, and things just didn't work out. I was given a flu shot. Coach Carlisle said, "Get all your shots." I took a flu shot, and then I went to Ole Miss, got another flu shot. Back then, it was a live vaccine, and so I ended up going from 175 to 162. Missed a week of practice. Get back to practice. We're going through drills, and one of the tight ends rolls up on my ankle, so I miss another 2 weeks of practice. So you're talking, I've missed 3 weeks of practice, and your fall practice, and I never played it down the whole freshman year. And I was ready to quit, go Ole Miss. I was really, I pretty much told my dad, I said, I'm going to go to New Orleans I want to enroll. I'm going to become a Baptist preacher and go to the theological seminary in New Orleans. And this is where it kind of gets funny. And I tell my, I'm Catholic now, and I tell my priests this, and they're kind of like, you're pretty humble to tell this story. I said, well, either humble or crazy. But so there was Reverend Jim Bain, who was a quarterback at Mississippi State, played against my dad, and he was at North Oxford Baptist Church. And my dad says, okay, before you decide to go to New Orleans Seminary, will you please go talk to Jim Bain? Well, I talked to Jim Bain for 2 hours. He's just questioning me about, do I really have the calling? And he looks at me and he says, boy, you don't have God's calling to be a preacher. Now take your little butt and go back and make that football team become a starter. Now, I said, okay, well, the Baptist preacher said that, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I go back, and he said, make that your missionary field, and that's kind of what I did. I played football before every practice, before every game. I would always say a little prayer. I said, Lord, if it's your will, I'm willing. And I did that before every practice and every game. And it you can see it worked out. But I mean, it was just like, and then I finished football. I'm sitting there, and about 10 years later, I was thinking, did God talk to Jim Bain, or was that my dad telling? Did Jim Bain telling because of my dad? No, get him back on the football field. He's kind of losing his mind. So it's kind of like, I don't think God turned me down. But anyway, it was kind of a great story. The fact that, but that's where my faith got involved, and it stayed pretty good. And then there's, we always have times, but that's the one thing. Your faith is always, you've got to keep that if you're going to get through hard times.
Well, look, we got to get to the story, the fairy tale. I mean, the fairy tale story. But let's talk about how you went from a walk-on at Ole Miss. It sounds like your freshman year, if it could go wrong, it was going wrong.
It went
How
wrong.
did you end up being a starting safety for Ole Miss? Let's go there first.
All right. Well, let's start in December of 75. We finished JV football. I hadn't played a play, and Coach Harold Wheeler was a defensive back coach, and you had to meet with your defensive back coach. And Coach Wheeler looked at me, and luckily Coach Carlisle and Coach Wheeler were in the same office. And Coach Carlisle kept saying, this boy, he can play. He may not look like it, but he's an athlete. He's fast. He's smart. He can play. Coach Wheeler says, well, I haven't seen it. So I go into Coach Wheeler's office and meet with us, and he says, look, son, you're wasting your time. You need to go on, do something else with your life. As long as you're here.
This is right after
my freshman year. That's my freshman year. Yes, I hadn't played it down.
Obviously, it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse.
No, it's not. And so you wonder why I had confidence. But I'm still, I'm still in my faith really hard right then. And Coach Wheeler's like, you need to
still saying your prayer.
He said, yeah. He said,
Lord, if you're willing,
yes,
I'm willing.
Yeah. And so Coach Wheeler's sitting there, and he says, just go home. He says, because the best thing's ever going to happen to you, for me and this football team, is if you stay around for 5 years on the practice squad, then I might be a Rudy, and he lets me dress out my senior year, my last game, just to dress out. Like I tell everybody, you watch the movie Rudy, it ain't nothing compared to my story. If you hear every aspect of it.
Oh my goodness!
And so I looked at Coach Wheeler and I said, Coach, do me one favor, just do me one favor, give me one shot, just give me one shot. He said, okay, I'm gonna give you your one shot. And we're in spring practice, and he said, okay, day in. Well, it's me against the ones. So I've got the Tim Ellis's, the James Stories, the Curtis Weathers. I've got everybody that you can imagine that Ole Miss back then. It's me against the ones, and they ran a veer, and I played it like you're supposed to as free safety. You play the dive, the dump pass, quarterback, and pitch. And the quarterback cut up, and I hit him pretty good and knocked him back. And Coach Wheeler runs and just starts banging me on the head. Said, that's the way a free safety plays the veer. Go forward on it, and spring game, I ended up with 2 interceptions and a block pass, broken up pass, which was amazing. And so at that point, Coach Ken Cooper calls me and says, we're giving you a scholarship. And it was between me and Billy Denny and Les Kimbrough, and they decided they need to give all 3 of us one because all the coaches were fighting. But Coach Carlisle and Coach Wheeler said, I need him. And then to make how I made varsity is a great story too. This is how my life goes, Keith. Is there was another walk on, and I had just got my scholarship, but he hadn't gotten he didn't get a scholarship, and we had one more corner to make the team, and Coach Wheeler says, okay, we're going to run the 40 for it. And at that point I'm like, oh wait, this could be a good thing. And I ended up beating him by like 1/10 of a second, and that's how I ended up making varsity, and everything else was history after that.
Oh my goodness! All right, well,
but then my senior year it got worse.
Well, I do. Well, now wait, because we still got that fairy tale.
Yeah, we got the fun stuff. Yeah, we got the fairy tale. Let's get to the fairy tale when you want to.
Well, let's cover your junior year because this is monumental. Yeah. Was there a more I'm going to use the word monumental because I know it was monumental in Ole Miss football at the time because Notre Dame was number 3 in the nation. Yeah. They ended up winning the national championship, and the only loss they had in 1976 was the Ole Miss Rebels that William Day was the starting safety on.
Right.
So there you go. So my question to you is I use the word monumental. Where does that Notre Dame game fit in to you with you as far as your playing time in your junior year?
Okay. With every positive, there's a negative, or what's that law that for every action, there's an opposite or equal reaction? The week before Notre Dame, we got beat by Alabama, 38-14, and Ozzie Newsome made a catch on me, and Coach Carmody, the defense coordinator, he wanted to bench me and put in another safety because he said, I just didn't think I could play SEC football. And I went against Ozzie Newsome. And for those of you who don't know Ozzie Newsome, he ended up being College Hall of Fame, College All-American, Pro Football Hall of Fame, general manager for the Ravens, built the big Ravens team as general manager. One of the greatest athletes I ever played against. But Coach Wheeler said, no, I've got to let him have one more game. So going into the Notre Dame game, I'm playing free safety. And we were so overmatched. There was no way they had probably that team. If you really look at the roster, I guarantee there's 11 or 12 All-Americans that were on that team.
Oh, Golick, Browner,
Ross, really Fry, Ross Browner. They had Joe Montana was 13. Ken Mack. That was my buddy. Yeah, he was fun he only caught like one pass. But yeah, that game was amazing. And I don't want to hear about the Heat. People talk about the Heat. No, we hit them in the mouth. When you watch the tape of that game, we beat them physically. We forced the fumbles early, but that game, and I'll never forget, and this is not bragging, but Coach Cooper said in his coach's television show, he said, look, William Day played the gutsiest game I'd ever seen a football player play in my life. Because let me tell you what. Early in the game, I got run over. I got slammed, run over. The guy cracked that right there. Well, that's the SEC's greatest speed bump right there.
Okay, here's what
that was Jerome Evans.
I want people to notice. Everybody, the white socks and the light colored cleats that are 2 feet and 3 feet off the ground, those are Williams' feet.
Yes.
JT, can you show the video in real time?
Watch the hole. Watch how big the hole was. I had no choice.
Oh, there
it is. There it is. That's it.
Watch this
right there. Look at that hole. There's nothing.
Watch this.
It's just me and him. That's the speed bump, baby.
That is the speed bump picture right there. Oh my gosh, William, that is so funny. And you make
see how wide?
Watch
you see how wide that hole is?
Yeah, and boy, when he hit you, goodness, your feet flew up in there. But hey, William, here's what I'm going to tell you, buddy. I told you in real time, I listened to the game on the radio, but ever since that video came out on YouTube where people could go back and watch that Ole Miss.
That's it. That's so perfect.
People can go back and watch that Ole Miss Notre Dame game. I bet I've watched it 5 times. And buddy, look, it is funny, it's comical, but athletics is full of comical things like this. Okay. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Heat, forget it. Y'all were busting them folks in the mouth so bad. And it wasn't just you. The defensive ends, the defensive linemen. The quarterback was running for his life just about the whole game. Yeah. That's part of why I use the word monumental, because they came in number 3 in the nation, and boy, y'all put a whooping on them. It wasn't the score was close. Everybody fumbled the ball, threw interceptions. What'd y'all end up with total between the two teams? 10 fumbles, maybe, I think.
Something like that.
So,
I know I got one.
Yeah.
And then we had interceptions. Brian Moreland had he was a Sports Illustrated Player of the Week from that game. He had an interception or 2. And George Plaskidas was an animal. Number 14, a former quarterback at Ole Miss, and then Bob Greffsing. And we had, let me put it this way. We had Eddie Cole, Eddie Howe. We had some great football players on that team. We just couldn't quite have the depth because we back then we played such a hard schedule. You go Alabama, and then you have Notre Dame, and then we lost to Southern Miss the next week. One of the worst days of my life from a concussion standpoint. But it's just depth was our problem. We upset a lot of numbers. If you got into number 3 and you're playing us, we beat you. Georgia, we beat Alabama 7-6 and 76 when they were ranked number 3 in the country. So if you're ranked number 3 and you're playing Ken Cooper team, we'd beat you, but then we'd probably lose the next week to somebody else.
Yeah, well, but that's why I want to tell you, William. You played great. Like I said, I've seen the video probably 5 times. It's a display of one team was hungry, one team was way too sure of themselves, and their defense played pretty doggone good too. Golick had his name called every play. Browner,
they were.
It's like almost every play that both of them had their name called on just about every play, but. God, y'all played some good defense. But William, that was so funny when I saw that video. The still picture does not do justice to what did it feel like when you hit the guy and
he cracked my sternum? I have a cracked sternum from that play.
I did not know that.
It hurt for the rest of the year. It still hurts now. Every now and then it'll flare up, but it actually cracked my sternum. I have a slight.
Buddy, he had a full head of steam, and you were going in the opposite direction. And
I just jumped on. He said, ride for the ride. But his head hit right on my sternum, and it hurt. It hurt forever on that thing. It took forever to get well, but that was amazing. But anyway, you ready for the fairy tale?
Oh, well, okay. We've had our glory days of our junior year, then your senior year, not so good, but
yeah,
the Lord had better things in store for you, buddy boy.
Well, that was my junior year that happened. We were playing LSU 77, and the LSU band, like I say, was coming into the hotel, and we were going out, and I was captain. I was being cocky, so I was in the lobby.
Wait a minute. Y'all met your junior year?
Yeah, we met our junior year.
I had the
we met our junior. No, we met our junior year, 77. We're playing LSU. That's when we had the doubleheader. Mississippi State would play Alabama that night, and we played LSU in the afternoon. And so they were coming into the hotel, Holiday Inn North on I-55. And so they were coming in the hotel, and I was standing in the lobby talking to alumni. I was captain that game. And so this girl comes in, she was dressed, and she taps me on the shoulder and says, do you play for Ole Miss? I said, yeah, I play for Ole Miss. And I was most of you knew me back then. I was kind of shy, and I know how to talk. And so I would say, yeah, I play for Ole Miss. She goes, well, I kind of have a love for Ole Miss. I'm thinking, yeah, you're an LSU person dressed in this Golden Girl outfit. And they had the capes on. And I'm like, what? Well, she lifts up part of her uniform and shows me, and I'm sorry, political correctness, but she shows me part of her rebel flag. And she had promised her dad that she would wear that for the Ole Miss LSU game because her dad went to Ole Miss. To make that story even crazier, her dad and my dad were from the same hometown, Columbia, Mississippi. He was from Bunker Hill, which is right beside Columbia. So I'm meeting this girl has relatives from close to Columbia, same as my dad. We're in school, same as my dad. And she said, well, I'll see you in the game. And I said, what's your name? And I learned Leslie. That's all I knew. And she said, I was born in Oxford, Mississippi. Said, okay. Well, I left there. We went to the game. We had open date the next week. We were up 21-0, lost 28-21. And I know, don't you say it, Keith. I know you're thinking it. Is that because your mind wasn't on the game? But no, it's because Hokey Gajan and Charlie Alexander were running over us that day. But I went home right after the game, and I told my parents, I said, I met the woman I'm going to marry.
Oh, my gosh.
And they're like, yeah, right. I don't believe this. Right. I said, no, I think I met the woman I'm going to marry.
Pause right there, William. JT, find William in his M Club sweater and a picture of a close-up of Leslie.
There, yeah,
that's
a marriage. That's going. Yeah, that's after the reception.
Now I'm talking about the one.
Wait, I need that hair. There's a Golden Girl outfit.
There's the Golden Girl.
What else?
William
for some reason the M Club
that's fine.
Image isn't in here.
That's okay.
I failed tonight, guys. It's okay. I resign.
Yeah. You don't have a tough guy football. You can show a tough guy to make up for that one you showed of me getting run over. Now that's my daughter as a
sorry.
King. That's okay. I love talking these things. I've had a fun life now. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
we met. But I don't know if you remember, Keith, but after all the home games, Cliff Finch would open up the governor's mansion for people to come in and tour around, and they'd have a open house after the games in Jackson. And so I went with a date to the governor's mansion. It just so happened Leslie, her dad, and her date went to the governor's mansion, and we didn't see each other, and we were there at the same time. I think if we'd have run into each other at the same time, nothing would have ever happened. But make a long story short, through a friend of a friend, we ended up calling Dr. Mary Nell Anderson. Now she's still in Louisiana, but she called two Golden Girls together named Leslie, and one of the Golden Girls said, "Nope, that's not me, but you're going to call him." And so Leslie called me, she said I would have never done it, but I was scared to death of Leslie, the other Leslie. And so we called, went out a date, and she couldn't stand me. But the only reason she married me is because I stood up when her mama came into the room. She said, I gave you props for that. So that's how we ended up. She started liking me after mama liked me.
Oh, my goodness.
But the one thing I'll never admit, the funny story is that her roommate goes, we went out on our first date. We come back in, and her roommate, and she asked her roommate, said, what'd you think? Because her roommate came and talked to me while Leslie finished getting dressed. And her roommate looks up from asleep and says, he was wearing penny loafers, which is not a thing in Louisiana.
No. Okay.
But anyway, so we ended up getting married, and it's been a blessing ever since. That's been my strength there.
JT, now you can show the married couple photo. There they are. There's the hat. Look at y'all.
That's it, man. Man, where's that red hair come from? I lost it when I was like 32 years old.
Well, you look happy. Leslie's, man, you're talking about an angel. That smart. There you go. Smart, intelligent.
Strong. We've been through a lot in the last few years, and
loved
she's an
you
amazing
like,
woman.
Yeah, loved you like nobody's business, and man.
Yeah, and that story, you talked about the pharmacy, is we were on the right in between. Is almost to this would be 1975. I was grad assistant with Steve Sloan. We just finished spring practice, doing a little bit of weightlifting. And Steve just passed away, so I'm not trying to be too negative on it, but and rest in peace, Coach. But we had got to a point. Everybody wonders how you ended up getting to Louisiana and all this type of stuff. But I was grad assisting, and Steve said, "Well, I understand you're dating an LSU girl." I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Well, I don't know if we really want that on our coaching staff." And that's when I walked away from Ole Miss. So here I am, about the middle of May, walked away. I'm getting married. I'm on my honeymoon, and I break out in a cold sweat saying, how am I going to support this lady's life? And I'm like, I don't have a job. And I got nervous as everything. And make a long story short, I went to her dad and said, you have this pharmacy. I kind of like pharmacy because I promised my grandmother I'd be a doctor and a medical doctor. So I always wanted to do something in medicine. He said, I tell you what, you can go to pharmacy school. I'll help you out. But you got to take her with you. And so there was my brains. I needed my key piece to be making it through. So she was Leslie, matter of fact, is a math and chemistry genius. And so she helped me get through that part because all I had was economics at Ole Miss. And so that's how we ended up. We were the first 5 years of our marriage was strictly 100%, 24/7 studying our butts off to do it. And then everything was good after that. So it's been a blessing. And then without her, I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing. But
well, tell us how y'all built your business together, because that's part of. William, look,
out of necessity.
Well, here's the thing. You were like your dad. You were quiet. You were reserved. You weren't a showboat or anything like that. Everybody knew you. Everybody loved you. But I don't know. Did you ever share all the roadblocks and the disappointments that you were going through with many people in your younger years?
No, not really. There wasn't anybody to share. I just prayed a lot, man. That's what I had to do. Back then we were the culture. You sucked it up and went on. Football really wasn't my first love. Baseball was, and golf was, and I loved track. But football was the only way that really back then, basketball and football were the two that you really got a full scholarship, which is what I really had to do. And so it just kept pushing. But I never really shared it with anybody, Keith. It was a personal thing that I'm going to work through this, and then getting into the business again. I was on top of the world with a company called K&B Drugs. I'd worked my way up from a staff pharmacist, and then helped with an acquisition. And then I kind of became an in-house entrepreneur, built a mail order pharmacy for them. And then when we were on top of the world, I'm in pharmacy operations. We ended up selling the company and I'm out of a job. So I went with Fred's 2 years, and I built a mail order company, and then said, well, I'm in Memphis 2 years, and I'm away from home, and I'd been traveling for 10 years before that, 200 nights a year, and it just wasn't right for the family. It wasn't right for me, and so I needed to get home. And when I got home, I didn't have a job, and Leslie's dad was doing this consulting, and when I took over with him, we had little 20 plus facilities. And I said, well, I've done all this other corporate America stuff, and now we're, it's been God's gift, and we've never really marketed, but I think we're the largest independent consulting firm in the country now, serving over 450 nursing homes and group homes, and anything that has medication, requires any type of review, drug regimen review, compliance audits, JCO compliance, anything like that. We just kind of built our niche, and now it's mandated through CMS. So it's been kind of a blessing that's led to necessity. And we tell the funny story. It's like my daughter wants to go to private school. I'm like, okay, I got to go get some more nursing homes. My daughter wanted to go to Belmont College in Nashville. I'm like, oh no, I better go get some more nursing homes. My daughter wants to go work at MTV in New York City. I'm like, oh, better go get some more. And then my daughter wants to get married. I said, better go get some more. So now I got grandkids, like, better go get some more. So it's kind of always a funny joke. And I say, Leslie, how we doing? How we doing? How we doing? She goes, you better go get some more. So it's kind of been it's been a blessing. I just dealing with geriatric patients, Keith, as you know, nursing homes, and it's a different sector, especially now with a lot of things happening. Is acuity level increases in nursing homes now, but it's been a blessing to work with the geriatric patients and to actually make a difference, to actually look at their medications, find out which medications are bringing them down, which ones are lifting them up, be able to share your little testimonies with them to make them smile. And it's just been a blessing for us. And I think we took that approach as to the fact that let's be personable. And like I tell all my pharmacists that work for me, is you better be able to answer your phone when it rings, because we're going to be available to everybody 24/7. And so far it's worked. And it's just been, like I say, it's been a blessing with Leslie and her dad starting the company. And I've only fired one employee in my 22 years of actually being full-time at it. That's how good it's been with the people we've hired. And then we're as good as our people, and they do amazing jobs.
Well, and William, to me, that's why your story is so awesome. The kid that lacked confidence, the kid that didn't know what his future held, the kid that didn't know how things were going to play out, and look what you built. Look at how well you learned your business, how well the things you accomplished over this period of time, and then you started this business, got your education, and started applying your education to the business world, and look at you now.
look at us, Keith. We two country boys from Forest Hill.
No, let's look at you. You have done great, and that's why that's why I wanted you to be able to tell your story, is because
thank you.
It's not rags to riches. We were a working class section of town. But working class people can make good in big ways. And you have. Now, here's where I want to go with the points I'm making now. Number one, the fact that you have been so successful, you've had two things that were very remarkable to me. One is an award-winning tailgating group. And then number two, your philanthropy. I want you to hit the tailgating thing first. Yeah. JT, you got any pictures of the Tigertown Mafia? No, that's
with the Burrow family. That's in the Grove with that picture right there, y'all. That was, we got back kind of a reunion thing, and we had a fellow teammate, Jay Bailey, who I just really loved the guy, and Jay was he was battling lung cancer, and we all got together. We did a prayer circle right there in the middle of the Grove with nothing but all the teammates. That's all our guys that were from the 75 through 78 seasons, and that was a special moment right there. I'm glad you got that picture. There's with the Burrows at our tailgate. That's when Jimmy Burrow. That's a great story. That's Roger Parks from St. Joe. I don't know if you remember Roger, Dr. Roger Parks, Harry Harrison, the All-American safety, Kenny Lyons. I mean, these are guys that were the 70 Peach Bowls. But Jimmy Burrow, we were at the tailgate when Joe was playing his senior year at Ole Miss. And Jimmy says, I want to go see Roger. I said, you want to do what? He says, I want to go see Roger. So I had to walk from his tailgate in the middle of the Grove all the way to Rogers. And the whole time, these little kids were number 9s, and Jimmy go, you want a picture? They're like, what? He said, yeah, with Joe's dad. And the parents were like, oh my God, it's Jimmy Burrow, it's Jimmy Burrow. So I had to be out. I was his bodyguard all the way through that whole Grove thing, which to me was great. So there's a tailgate. That's Tim Sayon. We call him the mayor. The tailgate. Okay. The story is we won the 2005 SEC championship, Texas Pete cook-off in Atlanta, we were on the Food Network. We've been on every network there is, but we call Tim the mayor because Tim meets everybody, and every time we have an interview at the tailgate, we let Tim do it. So, but I got to tell the backstory. That's the tailgate itself. That's at nighttime, usually on Friday night. You see the Joe Zone. You see the Tigertown Mafia. It's massive, y'all. We usually have about 250 people at each tailgate. But let me tell the backstory of that one because it's a great one. We had a little friend, Jason Bordelon, and Jason's dad died of cancer, and Jason was kind of taking care of him. And Leslie was working. He was a pharmacy tech for Leslie at her pharmacy. And we kind of got to know him through Ashley with theater and stuff. But I was going to take care of Jason. It's kind of like, what do you want to do? He's like, I like to tailgate. I said, what? Well, I didn't know much about tailgate. And I'd had 2 little tents, and Leslie and I entertained a few clients, but it wasn't much. We ended up joining tailgates, and we started. And so I bought a motorhome, and we started going to all the away games. And with him, he says, was the one thing he kept calling me Poppy. He said, Poppy is the one thing I really want to do. I said, what's that? He said, I want to bring my best friend. I said, all right, who's your best friend? He said, Travis. I said, okay, well, I don't have a problem with that. So Travis, Jason, and I started doing all the tailgating and everything. And the 3 of us went to Atlanta, and Leslie came with us, and we ended up setting up, won the whole thing. And so we got the trophy. Well, at that point it started, and Keith, it wouldn't quit. Because like I say, we'd been on Food Network, and every year we had to build something. That's when we built the dance floor. And then next thing you know, we're setting up our whole tailgate that you just saw. We'd have to set that up. So that'd be the backdrop for headline news, ESPN. I mean, it was crazy. That was one of the early ones. Why you got to show that one? Oh yeah, well, look at that stud Heisman pose.
Look
next
on the parquet dance floor. You can walk around Tiger Stadium.
There we are. That's in Oxford, wasn't it? That was at Oxford, wasn't it?
I believe that was Oxford. Yeah,
when we did
the
Oxford.
Parquet floor is my producer says the parquet floor was epic. Yes, it is, because it's the only one. People don't understand, but the tailgating at LSU ball game, home games, goes on all around the stadium, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Every
that's what
side.
They don't understand. That's what they don't understand.
People have no idea what SEC tailgating is like. Yeah. And you have one that's won all kind of awards. And when the news media comes there and they want to do features on the tailgating, they always come, where's Tigertown Mafia? Where's Tigertown Mafia?
Yeah, we've got a reputation now. And like I say, it's like 250. We used to be a point to about 300. We'd cook huge black pots full of jambalaya gumbo just to feed the masses. But now it's gotten to where we're in 4 generations, and it's to the point that we're celebrating our 20th year this year. And thought it was going to be a swan song, but I think when you hear the stories, like a lady called this week and said, "Hey, I want to bring my son. I want him to experience LSU tailgating." When you hear those stories, you're like, okay, well, I don't want to give it up. It just means too much to too many people. And it's very family. It's not a drunk fest. Like I say, that it's a very family and friendly environment that we have. But that's been a blessing.
Well, all right. Tigertown Mafia is it's like, first of all, SEC tailgating. It's like no other conference tailgates like the SEC does, and then Tiger Stadium tailgating is probably as good as it gets in the SEC. I mean, the ones that are always mentioned are LSU, Ole Miss at the Grove.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any other. Well, you got the Junction at Mississippi State, but I've never been to it.
Yeah,
I've been to the Grove, been to the to LSU, but
yeah.
I've
been to them all, and
well, I was just going to say, I mean, it's like it don't matter where you go in the country; it doesn't even come close to what you can experience at an SEC home game. So
what you don't understand about LSU is it's so wide out. I mean, it's spread out so much. There's over 250,000 people tailgate on every weekend at LSU, and we start on Thursday and leave on Sunday in time for church. I mean, it goes. We start on Thursday, and it's an ordeal. It's a production.
And you know, we're gonna pivot here, but here's the last thing I'm gonna say. 100,000 in the stadium. There's probably another 150,000 still in the tailgating going on while the game's going on. Right. And, you know, if you didn't have tickets, it doesn't matter. You've had such a good time from Thursday to Saturday. And if you didn't have tickets, that's fine because everybody has TVs. And so the stadium's full, the parking area and tailgating area is full. I mean, it's an experience like no other. It's just that's just the way it is. All right, let's pivot real quick.
Right.
How isn't there some kind of connection between you and Joe Burrow's uncle? Is that right?
Well, yeah, it's gotten really it's ironic how it all ended up. My senior year at Ole Miss, things weren't going good. I was pretty much told, even though I had some little honorable mention thing and things were looking good my junior year, coming in, going to be a wonderful senior year. The game had slowed down. I had more confidence than anything in the world. And then as soon as spring practice starts, Steve Sloan and George McIntyre told me, said, we're going with the youth movement. We'll probably play you some, but we want you to take care of the young guys and coach them up. And with that was a dangled carrot that, you know, you can do grad assists and maybe it grows into something as a coaching career. So I bit the carrot, and so two freshmen came in. One was Brad White, who I fell in love with, and the other one was a kid named Johnny Burrow. And Johnny both of them were in my wedding, but Johnny was a little different. Johnny was kind of, I would say, like me, as he was a brainiac. He was a math major at Ole Miss, which I was heading to biology. He was heading into math, and I thought he was a lot more stranger than me going into that building than going into biology. So we developed a great relationship, only he broke his hand his freshman year, so he got redshirted. So he would have been traveling and everything. He was an amazing athlete, as all the Burrows were. But the irony of the story is that Johnny was in the wedding, and then he went on, had a tremendous career in the Marine Corps and the Department of Defense, everything in the world. But he was an amazing guy. And we didn't stay in touch very much during those years, probably because he didn't want me to be associated with his governmental career. I could probably have done some damage on that, but no, it's a joke. But no, Johnny was he had his professional career, but then he reached out to me through Facebook, got my number and all that, and it told me, gave me a heads up like the day before that his little nephew was going to come to LSU. And a kid named Joe was coming down. Well, I'd heard of Jimmy Burrow. Jimmy was a great guy. And to make this whole ironic, and I'm glad you did this because it kind of makes an irony of how the whole universe revolves, and it's really a lot smaller, and your likenesses of your
William. God has a sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the irony. So Joe's senior year, the first game is the first time I meet Jimmy Burrow. and he came with his son Dan, and they came by the bus and was greeting us, and we got to talking, and so we developed a good relationship there. And the more we got to be friends, again, his senior year, we did everything. We set up some tailgates for him in Atlanta. I set up at my place in New Orleans. We set up we were the whole hospitality suite for the national championship, which is some great stories there. But the more Jimmy and I talked, come to find out, Jimmy Burrow walked on at Ole Miss, was not given a scholarship. His coach went to Nebraska. He ended up starting in Nebraska, made the game-saving tackle to win them the national championship or Sugar Bowl game or something. And you know what my football number was? You saw it in there, number 2. Guess what Jimmy Burrow's number was? 2. So Jimmy and I followed almost the exact same path. Except he did, he ended up playing NFL, CFL, and went on and played the pro. But it's just funny how, likeness always brings good people together. And then that's an amazing family. Joe's grandmother just got into the Basketball Hall of Fame for scoring, 80 points in a high school game or something. She said had one of the world's records. So it's just a great relationship, and it keeps blossoming. And it's the same thing with athletics, Key, and you know this, and you've experienced it. Once your brothers and teammates, I don't care who you played against, the Bill Maxies, the people that played at Mississippi State, anybody we played against, we have a brotherhood because we all know from an athletic standpoint, the work that was put in, the sacrifices you put in, and you really respect each other that, hey, you know what, we made it to some levels that a lot of people wish they did. And that's a blessing from God. And I wish everybody could experience it. I didn't win back-to-back SEC championships, but like I tell everybody, I got my championship ring when I said I do on June 2nd, 1979. That was the biggest championship ring I ever got right there when I married Leslie, because that changed the whole career path for me.
Well, William, look, we're running right up on the time crunch. Jimmy is Joe Burrow's uncle. You had the relationship with Jimmy, right?
No, I had the relationship with Johnny at first. Now I have the relationship with Jimmy. Yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy's Joe's dad.
Joe's dad, yes.
But anyway, you got close enough to him, and then when LSU won the national championship,
yes,
unbelievable career for Joe Burrow,
right,
quarterback, and I remember his first year there. Boy, you could see some potential, but he, it was like he was coming up a little bit short. But man, his senior year, that was an LSU team that just set the record books on fire. And then he gets selected for the Heisman Trophy, gets selected by the Cincinnati Bengals, and the rest is history for him. But he established a foundation. Right. And JT, if you would put that photo back up about the gathering for the foundation. Yeah.
Well,
now, what is that?
That's when we had a tailgate. Jimmy Chase's dad had a tailgate in New Orleans when they played the Saints, and so that's the whole Burrow clan inner circle right there. It's the greatest people. I mean, it's that's Jimmy over. You can see me, and then 2 down from me, that's Jimmy. That's Joe's dad. That's Joe's grandfather, the number 9, and then the blonde, that's his mom, Robin, and then Johnny is the man in the back on the right side. That's Johnny, the one I played with, and then there's Leslie in front of Johnny, and it's just amazing that the Burrow family and Joe to come up. I mean, the Heisman speech he gave was one of the greatest Heisman speeches, and probably will never be done again. And he lived up to it with the foundation. The Burrow Foundation is and it's not just a front. We've made a difference. Cincinnati and Baton Rouge with doing more or less underserved in food, and then bringing an awareness for children, mental awareness for mental disorders and issues, mental health, and it's just a blessing to be a part of it. And And to see Joe is he's actively involved with it. He has his vision, and it's our job to make sure that vision comes true and that we make it happen on what he dreams it to be. And the dreams are definitely becoming a reality now.
Well, William, let me tell you, I mean, we have had such a good time talking about your life, your story, you and Leslie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fairy tale. I mean, you can't hear stories like that enough. And you know, the faith, family, and football theme is still going on with you. Here's what we're going to do. We got to go, but we're going to give you the last word. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to send us and our listeners and viewers off with? Words of wisdom from William Day.
I will say this. Words of wisdom from William Day. Boy, that could be some problems. But let me say this. Never give up your faith. No matter how hard things happen, keep your faith in God, okay? And the way you keep your faith in God is just to pray. Number 2, don't ever doubt your family. That is the precious time. There's been time in my career where I thought career became first. And when career becomes first, your ego gets big and it makes a hardship on your family. But your family, you need to respect every minute you have with them because they can come and go. Football, sports, and all that, don't place as much emphasis on that as some people do. But understand this, the discipline you learn from that, the work ethic, the commitment, the teamwork, the respect you learn, it's a teaching thing that we need a lot more today. All sports, I mean, get your kids involved in sports. The greatest blessing I have right now is I've got 2 granddaughters that are just amazing kids. One's an amazing dancer, and then the other one is just an amazing golfer. And it's just fun to watch them grow and to learn through sports. They play basketball, they play volleyball, but get your kids, get your family. Sports teaches that discipline. But hug them, love them, and never, ever, ever doubt the love that Christ has for you. And that's how I want to end it, brother.
Oh my goodness, William, it's been great, man. So it's been I love you too, buddy. It's been so good hearing your stories. Some of them I've heard, some of them I haven't heard. And I was so glad you thought it was as funny as we did when we found that video clip of that tackle. Because boy, when you put SEC's greatest speed bump under your name, that was
it's real.
It's real. We got the video proof of it.
That's paper, brother.
It's been a great time, William. I hate to say bye, man. I hate to say bye.
Are you gonna show how pretty I was back then? I love that video.
Oh, this is the one where y'all.
That's the one with the little young number 2. Watch that. Look at that stump. Look at him 6. There he is. Happy boy. Happy boy. That's a good way to end right there.
Well, William, it's been fun. It's been great. Obviously, we had people interesting making comments, and there's Catherine. That's an old classmate of ours, if you remember her.
Yeah.
Hey,
absolutely.
Catherine, thank you. So glad you enjoyed it, Catherine. And William, you've just been a pleasure. And we didn't cover half of what we could have. So, man, sometime real soon, I want you back on, and we'll visit some more, buddy. Okay?
Let's do it, buddy. Because let me just say one last thing. There is nothing like, and I'm gonna say this: those years at Forest Hill, the people at Forest Hill. You think about it, Key. With school integration, we never had any issues. You know why? Because Principal Walker, when he would do that opening announcement and do that Pledge of Allegiance and do that prayer and talk to everybody as they were human beings, that led that school. And those years at Forest Hill were amazing. All my friends and people at Forest Hill was amazing. And yeah, I had to do a thing at prep, and I got to give the prep people a little shout out too, because they accepted me. They really bent over backwards to help me. And we can get into some more of the fun parts of of those seasons. And I just want to say that everybody along the way, I'll never forget you. And I thank you for being the friendships and things we've had. And as you know, you experience it every day, Keith. And our reunions are coming up for our 50 years, and it's been a long time, buddy.
It has been.
I'll be quiet now.
It's been great, man. So it was such a blessing to visit and to hear things from you. Well, we got one final comment. Look at there.
Say on. The mayor
of Tigertown. Glad to have you with us, Tim. It's been fun, William. We got to go. We don't want to overstay our welcome, but I do want you back soon. We're going to finish. We're going to tell some more stories because we know there's a whole lot more we just didn't get to cover tonight. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. JT, take us away, buddy.